Bonjour and good morning. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and PLAR Math. And this is our second class in Term 1B. We just started Term 1B this week, so just in our second class for this term. So just a reminder that PLAR students who didn't finish up your subject that you're working on in Term 1A, you can continue working on the key questions and continue to submit them in Term 1B. PLAR students are not withdrawn at the end of the term, so just continue working from wherever you left off and continue submitting your work. There will be 2 classes per week for the PLAR Math, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. And 2 ways to participate in classes. First way is on radio, just call into our studio. The second way is by using Zoom. So you can use the link provided or go to the nnec-on-ca.zoom.us. And the instructions are in your study guide for joining classes, whichever way you want to do that. Or you can contact your DEC or me. All PLAR Math students are welcome to attend classes, so it doesn't matter if you signed up for Radio Zoom or if you signed up for IL. All PLAR students can attend the classes or watch the recorded classes. To contact me, you can use email, phone, or send a message on Facebook Messenger, whichever works better for you. And the PLAR English classes from last term are available on YouTube. Just go to B. Osmond Wasa on YouTube and search PLAR English, and you will find the playlist for all of the classes from last term. And the PLAR Math classes from last year are still available on YouTube. And as I record new classes, I will update those classes with the new ones. So if you're working ahead of where we are in math, you can still go to YouTube to watch the classes from last year. Okay, so the schedule for classes for this term, there's only 4 courses being offered, and one of those is the PLAR. So Mondays and Wednesdays is the PLAR Science from 10 to 11. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the PLAR Math from 10 to 11, as I mentioned before. Term 1B started this week on Tuesday the 12th and will end after Christmas on January 24th. So we have 6 weeks of classes before Christmas and 3 weeks after Christmas. And we are at the end of the first week now. So after this week, only 5 weeks of classes before the Christmas break. So make sure you stay on top of your work and submit your key questions as soon as you do them. Just an announcement or a reminder in some cases. For this year, we started offering PLAR students the option of writing the culminating activity instead of or before doing the lessons and key questions. So if you choose to write the culminating activity first and you pass the culminating activity, then you don't have to do the lessons and key questions, and you can just move on to the next subject or the next stage, whatever, depending on how many of the junior PLAR subjects you need to do. If you're not successful with the culminating activity, so if you decide to try the math culminating activity and you don't pass it, then you will have to do the lessons and the key questions, submit them for marking, and then once that's all done, then you will get another opportunity to write the culminating activity. So it's not a one and done thing. You do get more than one chance to pass. If you are doing the lessons, you will notice that there are 2 types of questions in the lessons. There are support questions and key questions. The support questions are the practice questions that you do before you do the key questions. So near the end of the lesson, right before the right before the key questions, you will find answers to the support questions. So do the support questions in your lesson, and then once you're finished, you go to the answers to the support questions and check your answers against the ones that are there. If you're getting all or most of the questions correct, then you can move on to the key questions. The key questions are the questions that you submit to me, and those are the questions that have marks. Support questions do not have any marks because they are practice. So you only submit to me the key questions, and you should start working on them as soon as possible. Start working on your lessons as soon as possible, and then submit the key questions as soon as possible. There are several ways to submit your work. The first way, of course, is to give it to your DEC, and then your DEC will send it out to us. If your DEC is away, or your learning center is closed, or you don't have a learning center in your community, you can submit your own work. One way of doing that is to, if you have access to a scanner, you can scan and email your own work to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. Make sure that you have typed that in correctly so that we do get it, and then you can CC it to me. You will find my email address or my email on the cover page of your lessons and your study guide. Or if you have access to a fax machine, you can fax it to our toll-free fax number. If you're submitting your own work, be sure to write your name, the subject, and your teacher's name on your work. Okay, since you don't have a cover page when you're submitting your own work, make sure you include all of that information so that we know who the work is coming from and who it is meant for, especially who it is coming from. Okay, another way, if you don't have access to a scanner or a fax machine, is to use your smartphone. With your smartphone, you can take photos of your work, and then you can, take photos of your work, or you can scan your work using the built-in scanner on your phone, and then you can either email it to same address, studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and CC it to me, or you can send your work using Facebook Messenger. So you can take pictures and send it on Messenger, or scan it and send it on Messenger. Okay, if that works better for you, if that's easier for you. You can also use our outdoor mailbox. So the mailbox is located on the side of the building in the WASA parking lot. So the side that faces the post office. So between the post office and the WASA building, that's where you will find the WASA mailbox. Or if you're coming into Sioux Lookout and you're coming to WASA, you can just knock on the door and give your work to whoever answers the door. You can also use Google Docs to send your work, so make sure that you make it shareable, and you can share the link with me and I can get your work that way. And you can also use Google Classroom to complete and submit your work. Okay, another thing I wanted to let everyone know about is that you can win prizes. So at the end of every term, including this term, WASA will have 2 student draws, one for students who earned a credit and one for students who submit work. So at every lesson you submit, you get your name gets entered into a draw, and if you also complete your credit, then your name gets entered into a different draw. So you do have the opportunity to win 2 prizes. Last term, the prizes were a Kelly kettle and a WASA backpack. I believe it's an Under Armour backpack. So I'm not sure what the prizes are going to be this term. As soon as I do find out, I will let you know, but just an opportunity for you to win a prize. Okay, so we're going to start off with a review of what we talked about in class on Tuesday. So on Tuesday was our first class where we started. We spent a lot of time just talking about the course, but we did get started in lesson 1. And the first thing we talked about in lesson 1 is negative numbers. So negative numbers are numbers that are less than 0. So if you think about a number line or a thermometer, it goes below 0. So those, once you go below 0, then you get into the negative numbers. So numbers don't just stop at 0. You know, if you're counting backwards, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, that's not the end of it. Then you go below 0 into the negatives. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So positive numbers are more than 0, and positive numbers are to the right of 0. Okay, so starting at 0, if you go to the right on a number line, or on a thermometer, if you go up, those are your positive numbers. Negative numbers are less than 0, and they are to the left of 0 on a number line, or below 0 on a thermometer. A number line can be used to order negative and positive numbers. So if you see on this number line, so for every positive number, there is a negative opposite. So positive 2, its opposite is negative 2. Positive 7, its opposite is negative 7. Positive 10, its opposite is negative 10. So for every positive number, there is a negative number. And remember, with numbers, the lines continue in both directions forever. 0 is neither positive nor negative. It's just 0. So if you are adding something, so if you get negative 2 plus a positive 2, your answer is 0. Don't try to figure out, was it a negative 0 or a positive 0? It's neither. It's just 0. Okay, so after we talked about negative numbers, we talked about negative integers. So negative numbers include things like fractions and decimals and the whole numbers. Negative integers include only the whole numbers. So 0.5 or 0.35 would not be an integer. It would be a negative number, but not an integer. So an integer is only negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, etc. So then we started talking about adding integers. So there are rules for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. Just like everything, if you follow the rules, then you should be okay. But you have to learn the rules first, and then you have to practice the rules so that you internalize it, so that you remember it. So the rules for adding integers are, so the first one, the sum, and the sum is what we get when we add. The sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. So as I showed you a little while ago, if you have negative 2 plus 2, your answer is 0. So it doesn't matter what the numbers are, what the integers are, if they're opposites, the answer will always be 0. So negative 99 plus positive 99 will give you 0. Next, adding two positive integers always results in a positive value that is greater than both of the integers. So if you're adding 5 plus 5, these are both positive integers, then your answer is 10. 10 is greater than both 5s. It's the result of both of them being combined, so it's going to be bigger. So two positive integers will give you a positive answer, positive sum. Next, adding two negative integers always results in a negative number that is smaller than the given numbers. Because, remember, on a number line, let's go back up here, the further to the left that you go from 0, the smaller the value of the number. Okay, so negative 10 is less than negative 2. Okay, so you get smaller as you move to the left of the 0. On the positive side, you get bigger as you move to the right. Okay, so in this case, 10 is bigger than positive 2. So remember that. So adding two negative integers always results in a negative number that is smaller than the given numbers. So if we have negative 6 plus negative 3, we've got two negative integers. Our answer is going to be negative, and then we add our number. 6 plus 3 is 9. So negative 9 is the sum, and it is actually smaller than negative 6, and it's smaller than negative 3. Okay, remember, because it goes to the left. Number 4, adding a positive number with a negative number. So if you're adding numbers that have different signs, one's positive, one is negative, That's done by finding the difference, so that means subtract, between the absolute value of both numbers. Then the sign with the greater number will attach to the sum. So how do we do that? So if we have, say, negative 6 plus positive 4, we look at the absolute values of the numbers. The absolute value means the value of the number without the sign. So the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. The absolute value of positive 4 is 4. 6 is bigger than 4, so when we look at the absolute value, 6 is bigger than 4. 6 is negative, so our answer is going to be negative, and we subtract 6, take away 4, will give me 2. So our answer is negative 2. So when you're adding integers that have different signs, it's a little bit more work, okay? So integers with the same sign is easy. Just add the numbers and use the same sign. But when we have different signs, we have to take our time a little bit more and take an extra step. And the fifth rule is adding integers with 0 will result in the same number. So if we add 4 plus 0, our answer is 4. If we add negative 7 plus 0, our answer is negative 7. Okay, because you're adding nothing to it, which means you're not changing it. So whatever number that you're adding to 0, that's what your answer will be. So here is a chart, that reviews that. So the integers signed. So if we're adding two positive numbers, so if we get a positive plus a positive, we add them together using a plus sign, and 4 plus 6, for example, will give us positive 10. So if your signs of your integers are positive, then the sign of your answer will be positive. If the signs of your integers are positive and negative, with the positive number being bigger, because we have different signs, positive and negative, we're going to subtract the numbers. Positive bigger, so our answer is going to be positive. So for example, 16 plus 7, this is positive 16. 16 is bigger than 7, so our answer is going to be positive, and we subtract 16 take away 7 equals 9, so our answer is positive 9. If the integers are positive and negative, with the negative being the bigger number, because the signs are different, we subtract. Because the negative integer is bigger, our answer is going to be negative. So for example, 5 plus negative 11, look at the absolute values, 5 and 11. 11 is bigger than 5. It's negative, so our answer is going to be negative 6. 11 take away 5 is 6. So the answer is negative 6. If the integers are both negative, we're going to add the two numbers. Our answer will be negative because both of the numbers that we're adding are negative. So for example, negative 3 plus negative 4, both negative. Add the numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7. And because they're both negative, our answer is going to be negative. Okay, so if you can remember this chart, that should help you. So just remember, if the signs are the same, so both positive or both negative, you're going to end up, you add the numbers, and then if they're both positive, your answer is going to be positive. If they're both negative, your answer is going to be negative. So same sign ends up with the same sign in the answer. If you have different signs for your integers, then you're going to subtract the numbers, and you're going to take the sign of the bigger number. So if the bigger number is positive, your answer is going to be positive. If the bigger number is negative, your answer is going to be negative. Okay, so again, you have to try to remember those rules. Okay, so we do a couple of examples because we didn't have much time last day to do the examples. We ran out of time. So we'll just do a couple. We won't do all of these today. So just for a bit of practice. So find the sum. So 8 plus 20, both positive. 8 plus 20 is 28. That one's pretty straightforward. Number 2, we've got both negative. Negative 15 plus a negative 3, so my answer is going to be negative. 15 plus 3 is 18. Number 3, here now we've got a positive and a negative. So the first thing I have to do is look at the absolute values of my numbers, which are 17 and 19. 19 is bigger than 17. 19 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and I just add my numbers. So 17 plus 19 is 36. My answer is negative 36. Number 4, negative 6 plus positive 20. So here we've got a negative plus a positive, so I need to look at the absolute values. Absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Absolute value of 20 is 20. 20 is bigger than 6. It's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Now I subtract. 20 take away 6 is 14. I did that one over here wrong. It's not 36. Forgot to subtract. So what I should be doing here is subtracting 19 take away 17, so my answer is negative 2, not negative 36. Sorry. Number 5, we've got a negative 11 plus 4, so we've got a negative plus positive again, so I look at my absolute values, 11 and 4. 11 is bigger than 4, it's negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and then I subtract my numbers. 11 take away 4 is 7. Number 6, we've got 18 plus a negative 17. Again, we've got a negative and a positive, so I'm looking at the absolute values. 18, absolute value of positive 18 is 18. Absolute value of negative 17 is 17. 18 is bigger, it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive, and then I subtract. 18 take away 17 is 1. So my answer is positive 1. Okay, number 7, we've got 2 negatives, so that one's easy. I know my answer is going to be negative because both of those numbers are negative. 7 plus 10, 17. Number 8, 10 plus 2, well, 10 plus 2 is 12. Both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Okay, so what happens if you have more than one integer that you're adding? So if you have more than one integer, you group the positives together, you group the negatives together. So you're going to have to rewrite. So in this first example, I've got 6 plus negative 12 plus 2. So I've got 2 positive integers, so 6 plus 2 plus negative 12. So I'm going to add my positive integers. 6 plus 2, I'm going to have to do this down here, is 8. Actually, I won't do it down here, I'll do it over here. 6 plus 2 is 8 plus negative 12. And now I've got a positive and a negative. So now I look at the absolute values. So I've got 8 and 12 are my absolute values. 12 is bigger than 8, it's negative. So my answer is going to be negative, and 12 take away 8 is 4. So my answer is negative 4. Okay, number 2, I've got 11 plus 14 plus negative 2. 2 positive numbers and a negative number, so I'm going to add my positive numbers first. 11 plus 14 is 25. Now I've got 25 plus negative 2. Now I'll have to look at the absolute values. 25 and 2. 25 is bigger, it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. And I subtract 25, take away 2 is 23. In number 3, all of my numbers are negative. So I just have to, because they're all negative, my answer is going to be negative. So now I just add them. Negative 12, or 12 plus 5 is 17, plus 10 is 27. So my answer is negative 27. Number 4, all of my numbers are positive. So just add them. 15 plus 13 is 18, plus 6 is 24. And that's positive because the numbers are all positive. So it doesn't matter how many integers you're adding. If they're all negative, your answer is going to be negative. If they're all positive, your answer is going to be positive. If they're mixed up, so you have some negatives and some positives, so let's look down here. We've got 4 integers that we're adding. Negative 13 plus 5 plus negative 4 plus negative 5. So I'm going to add my negative integers first. So negative 13 plus negative 4 plus negative 5. And then I've got my positive 5 at the end. So negative 13 plus negative 4 will give me negative 17. Negative 17 plus negative 5 will give me negative 22. So now I've got negative 22 plus 5. Now I've got a negative and a positive, so because my 22 is bigger than 5, it's negative. My answer is going to be negative. 22 take away 5 is 17. So my answer is negative 17. So if you have more than two integers and they're mixed up at negative and positive, then put all your positives together first and then look for the absolute value of your negatives and your positives and then subtract and find your answer. So 12 plus 7 is 19. 19 plus 18 is 37. So 37 plus negative 13. I'm looking at the absolute value. 37 is bigger than 13. It's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. And then I subtract 37, take away 13, leaves me with 24. So positive 24. Okay, so you just have to take your time. Don't try rushing it. And if you need to write things down, like I did here when I rearranged it, do that. Okay, try not to skip steps because that's when we make mistakes. When we try to do it all in our head, especially if it's something that you're not used to doing. Okay, so that's adding integers. So that's what we did on Tuesday. So today we're going to look at subtracting integers. So in your lesson, beginning on page 9 is information on subtracting integers. So page 9 and 10. And then your support question is on page 11. As I mentioned before, please do the support questions and then check your answers before you do the key questions. Make sure you're understanding it before you move on. Okay, so integer subtraction. So if you know how to add integers, you can also subtract integers. And the reason for that is because when we do integer subtraction, we transform our subtraction problem into an addition problem. But you can't just change the sign, and that's it, okay? Because that would change the value of the numbers. So here are the steps to follow, and then we'll look at some examples. So step 1, transform the subtraction of integers problem into the addition of integers problem. So how do you do that? First of all, you keep the first number, which is the minuend. So the first number in the problem, you don't change it. Second, now this is where you start to make your changes. Change the operation from subtraction to addition. So the minus sign, you're going to change it to a plus sign. Third, get the opposite sign of the second number, which is the subtrahend. Now you don't have to learn these words, but just in case you're wondering. So the opposite sign of the second number. So the number that you're subtracting, change the sign of it. So if it's a positive 2, it's going to change to a negative 2. If it's a negative 4, it's going to change to a positive 4. And then finally, proceed with the regular addition of integers. Then once you've got that done, step 2 is to add using the integer rules. So remember the rules. Rule 1, adding two integers with the same sign. Add the numbers and keep the common sign. So if your numbers are both positive, your answer is going to be positive. If your numbers are both negative, your answer is going to be negative. Rule 2, adding two integers with different signs. Subtract their absolute values. So the larger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. Then take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. Okay, so those are the steps. So let's do some examples then. So number 1, subtract the integers below. So we've got a negative 13 minus a positive 4. So we need to transform this subtraction problem into an addition problem. To do that, we keep the first number, so the negative 13 does not change. Negative 13 stays negative 13. Then we change the operation from subtraction to addition, so our subtraction changes to addition, and then switch the sign of the positive 4 to negative 4. So we went from a subtraction, negative 13 minus 4, to an addition, negative 13 plus negative 4. Now we just do regular addition. So now that we've made the change, both of our numbers are negative. So negative 13 plus 4, we add the absolute values. 13 plus 4 is 17. Because both of our numbers are negative, our answer is negative 17. Okay, example 2, subtract the integers below. So negative 9 minus a negative 3. So again, keep the first number the same. Positive 9 stays as positive 9. I think I said negative 9, but anyway. Positive 9 stays positive 9. Then we change our subtraction to addition, and we change the negative 3 to positive 3. So again, we went from a positive 9 minus a negative 3 to a positive 9 plus a positive 3. Now we add, so we follow the integer rules. Both of our numbers are positive, positive 9, positive 3, so our answer is going to be positive. 9 plus 3 is 12, so our answer is positive 12. There is a shortcut for this. When you see two negative signs together, so if you're subtracting a negative number, whatever number that might be, then it's easy to remember that two negatives makes a positive. So that's only when they are right beside each other. So if I've got negative 4 minus negative 3, it's minus negative. So all I have to remember is that two negatives makes a positive. Okay, so but if it's negative 4 minus positive 3, you can't do that because the two negative signs or minus signs are not right beside each other. So it's only if you're subtracting a negative number, then you can change it to positive and you have negative 4 plus 3. It's a little bit of a shortcut. Okay. Okay, another example. Find the difference of the two integers. So now we've got negative 24 minus negative 19. So follow the rules. So negative 24 stays the same. We change our negative to positive. We change our negative 19 to positive 19, and we end up with negative 24 plus 19. Now we've got a negative number and we've got a positive number. So now we have to subtract the absolute values. So 24 take away 19 is 5. 24 is bigger than 19. 24 is negative, so our answer is going to be negative 5. Okay? And this is why I like to figure out what the sign is going to be before I put the number, because sometimes when people do the number first, they forget to look at for the sign and they just leave it as 5. So the answer would be wrong here. The correct answer is negative 5. So negative 24, negative 19. 24 is bigger. That tells me that my answer is going to be negative, so I put in that negative sign right away so I don't forget it. Okay, if we take the bit of a shortcut, so 24 minus negative, I know that's going to be plus 19. So basically you kind of skip one step. So negative 24 plus 19. 24 is bigger, it's negative, my answer is going to be negative. 24 take away 19 is 5. Okay, you can also use a number line to help with subtracting integers. So if you're having trouble and you happen to have a long number line, or a number line that can help you, you can use a number line. Okay, so just like we did before, 4 take away 5, start at the 4 and you subtract 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You end up at negative 1, so 4 take away 5 is negative 1. Now, if you're working with numbers like 24 and 19, negative 24 and positive 19, then you need a longer number line. So it might be a little bit trickier. So it's always a good idea to learn the rules. But, like I said, you can use a number line if it'll help. Okay, you can use a calculator to subtract integers. So as I mentioned on Tuesday, you need to use the key that has a plus and a minus sign on it. So to do the question, negative 8 minus negative 7. Let's see if this will open. There we go. Is there a calculator? So negative 8 minus negative 7. So remember, first thing you do is punch in your number, 8. To make it negative, you hit the plus minus sign. See if we can get this out of the way. There we go. So now we've got a negative 8 in our display. And I'm doing subtract, so I use the subtraction button. And I'm subtracting minus 7, negative 7. So I'm going to hit the 7 first, then the plus minus sign to make it a negative 7. So I've got my negative 8 minus my negative 7, and I hit equals, and my answer is negative 1. Okay, so because the numbers, okay, it was negative 8 minus negative 7. So remember, minus a negative will give me negative 8 plus 7, and then I subtract. 8 take away 7 is 1. 8 is bigger, it's negative, so my answer is negative 1. Okay, so you can use your calculator to do your subtraction. Okay, so if we look right here now, subtracting integers, so we looked at the table for adding integers. Here's another table for subtracting integers. So your signs are positive and positive. So you're subtracting a positive from a positive. So change to the first number was going to stay positive. Subtraction changes to addition. The positive changes to a negative. If you've got a positive minus a negative, positive is going to stay the same. Subtraction is going to change to addition. Negative is going to change to a positive. If you've got a negative minus a positive, the first one, the minuend is going to stay the same, negative and negative. Subtraction changes to addition, and the positive number changes to a negative number. If you're subtracting two negative numbers, your minuend, the first number, is going to stay the same. Subtraction changes to addition, and the negative number changes to a positive number. Okay, so again, you need to remember what the rules are. Okay, so let's do some practice with subtracting integers. So negative 15 minus 14. So negative 15 is going to stay as negative 15. I'm going to change my subtraction to an addition, and then I'm going to change my positive 14 to a negative 14. Now I have two negative numbers. I've got a negative 15 plus a negative 14, so I know my answer is going to be negative because both of these are negative. So negative, and then add my numbers. 15 plus 14 is 29. Okay, so negative 15 plus a negative 14 will equal a negative 29. Number 2, we've got 2 minus a negative 8. So 2 stays the same. My subtraction changes to addition. My negative 8 changes to a positive 8. Or I could just do 2 plus 8 equals 10. Because they're both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Number 3, 11 take away negative 11. So I've got two negatives running together. So my first 11 stays the same. Those two negatives will give me a positive and 11. So 11 plus 11 is 22. Number 4, negative 5, take away 15. Negative 5 stays the same. my negative changes to a positive, my positive 15 changes to a negative 15, and now I'm adding two negative numbers. My answer is going to be negative. 15 plus 5 is 20. Okay, so the tricky part of this is making sure that you remember to change your plus, or sorry, your negative, your minus to a positive, sorry, your subtraction to addition, and then change the integer to its opposite. Okay, so number 5, negative 5 take away 10. The 5 is going to stay the same. Subtraction changes to addition. My positive 10 changes to a negative 10. And now I've got negative 5 plus negative 10. They're both negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 5 plus 10 is 15. Number 6, negative 9 minus negative 1. So my negative 9 is going to stay the same. Got minus and negative, which is going to change to a positive 1. And then negative 9 plus 1. Now, okay, this time because I've got a negative number and a positive number that I'm adding, remember I have to look at the absolute value. 9 and 1 are the absolute values. 9 is bigger than 1. It's negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And then I subtract. 9 take away 1 is 8. Okay, number 7, 13 take away negative 2. So my 13 stays the same. Subtract negative changes to a positive 2. 13 plus 2 is 15. They're both positive, so my answer is positive. Number 8, same idea. 12 take away negative 4. 12 take away negative changes to a positive 4, and my answer is positive 16. Number 9, negative 8 minus 1. Negative 8 stays the same. Subtract changes to add. Positive 1 changes to negative 1. Now I've got two negatives, negative 8 plus negative 1. Because they're both negative, my answer is going to be negative, and 8 plus 1 is 9. Number 10, 1 take away 10. So my 1 stays the same. Subtract changes to add. Excuse me, my positive 10 changes to a negative 10. Now I've got different signs. I've got a positive and a negative. I look at my numbers first. 1 and 10. 10 is bigger. 10 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And then 10 take away 1 is 9. Okay, some of this, if you can do it in your head, do it in your head. If you got to write it down, write it down. It's no big deal. Oops, 10 take away 1, not 10 take away 9. If it helps you to write it down, and then as you do more practice with it, then you'll start to be able to do it in your head a little bit more. But don't jump to doing it in your head right away if you're not sure. Okay, number 11, negative 7 minus negative 15. So our negative 7 stays the same. Minus negative changes to addition. So negative 7 plus 15. Again, I've got different signs. Negative and a positive, so I'm going to look at my numbers, just the absolute value, 7 and 15. 15 is bigger, 15 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Now I subtract. 15 take away 7 equals 8, so my answer is positive 8. Number 12, 14 take away 9, so 14 plus negative 9. Now this one is just basic subtraction, so you don't have to make these changes. You can go 14 take away 9 is 5. Okay, so you don't have to make these changes. But it's good practice too. So 14 plus a negative 9. I've got a negative and a positive. 14 is bigger than 9, so my answer is going to be positive. 14 take away 9 is 5, which is what I already did, 14 take away 9. Okay, so look at the problem before you do it and just think about what you're doing. So again, take your time. So again, what happens if you have more than one integer that you're more than two integers that you're subtracting? It doesn't matter. You do the same drill. So negative 3 plus negative 4 plus 1. So I change my negative to a positive. my two negatives to a positive. So now I've got -3 plus -4 plus 1. So my -3 plus -4, I'm going to do my negative integers first. That will give me -7 plus 1. 7 is bigger. It's negative. My answer is going to be negative. 7 take away 1 is 6. So -6. Okay, number 2, -1 minus -6 minus 6. So -1 stays the same. So that becomes plus 6 plus -6. Okay, so now I've got my negative. So -1 plus -6 plus 6. -1 plus -6 will give me -7 plus a positive 6. 7 is bigger than 6, so my answer is going to be negative because the 7 is negative. 7 take away 6 is 1. Okay, -2 take away 2 take away -8. So -2 stays the way it is. Minus changes to plus. My positive 2 changes to a -2, and minus a negative plus 8. So -2 plus -2 will give me -4 plus 8. 8 is bigger than 4. Excuse me. It's positive. So my answer is going to be positive, and then I do 8 take away 4, which is 4. Okay, number 4, we've got -3 minus -6 minus 4. So my -3, the first number, always stays the same. Minus changes to plus. -6 changes to positive 6. Minus changes to plus, and 4 changes to -4. So my negative numbers are -3 plus -4. Then I've got plus 6. -3 plus -4 is -7 plus 6. Now I've got a negative plus a positive. Negative is bigger. 7 is bigger than 6, so my answer is going to be negative, and 7 take away 6 will give me 1. Don't forget that after you change your signs, after you figure out the sign, the absolute value, you still have to subtract because your numbers are different. Okay, number 5, we've got a -1 minus a -8 minus 3. So -1 stays the same. Minus a negative changes to a positive 8, and then plus -3. So I've got -1 plus -3 plus 8. -1 plus -3 is -4 plus 8. Did I do one like this before? Yes, you're right above. Okay, so -4 plus -8. 8 is bigger, it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. 8 take away 4 is 4. And the last one, -7 take away 8 take away 2. So -7 plus -8 plus -2. So now I've got all negative numbers, so that's easy. My answer is going to be negative. 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Okay. All right, so key question 2, find the difference. So you've got 3 take away 2, basic subtraction. For the rest of them, remember to change, and the line is long so that you can rewrite it over here if you want. So -5, subtraction changes to addition. Positive 6 changes to a -6. So rewrite it and then put in your answer. Or if you want to, you can rewrite it underneath here and then put your answer on the line. But take your time, because remember, you have to change the subtraction to addition and then change the sign of the number that you are subtracting, the second number. When you get down to G, there's 3 there. So same idea. -4 is going to stay -4. Change the -6 to a +6. Change the +3 to a, oh sorry, that's already +3. So you don't have to change anything there because it's already addition. So you're just changing that middle one. So you get -4 +6 +3. Okay, so take your time when you're doing those. Okay, and that is it for our class today. So when we meet next week, we're going to have a look at multiplying and dividing integers. So try to get those key questions done before our next class next week on Tuesday. If you have any questions, please contact me. Other than that, Enjoy your rest of your week. Miigwech.